beautiful thing I ever saw in my life.
I'd like to tell you a story about a movie. A magical movie about a magical car. A musical for children created by British filmmakers in an attempt to compete with Hollywood and Walt Disney. A cheerful fantasy about interventionist foreign policy and the role of espionage in its implementation. Brought to you by a creative team with deep ties to British military intelligence. Released in 1968, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang tells the story of an eccentric inventor, his two kids, a candy company heiress, and most importantly, a car. A singular piece of cutting-edge technology that can travel on water, fly through the air, and make its own decisions. At least in the second half of the movie, which is framed as a story that the inventor shares at a seaside picnic.
That isn't just any old boat out there.
No?
No. That is a private yacht of the notorious Baron Bomburst.
Baron Bomburst?
You have never heard of Baron Bomburst? Ruler of Vulgaria? The most evil man in the world.
Oh!
Yeah.
I never understood why this section of the film had to be framed as a fantasy when the first half of the movie is hardly realistic. But anyway, the car is coveted by the evil Baron Bomburst, ruler of the undemocratic land of Vulgaria. The Baron's spies try to steal the car, but wind up kidnapping the children's wacky grandpa. The inventor, Caractacus Potts, played by Dick Van Dyke, and the candy heiress, Truly Scrumptious, played by Sally Ann Howes, head for Vulgaria with the children. Upon entering Vulgarian airspace, they are met with hostile fire. They quickly learn that children are illegal in Vulgaria, and this immediately puts the Potts children in harm's way. We are then introduced to the film's most memorable character, the child catcher.
Children here somewhere. I can smell them.
Executing a vicious government policy with extreme gusto, the child catcher has terrified generations of children that thought they were watching a children's movie. Brilliantly played by actor and dancer Robert Helpman with snaky grace, the child catcher is creepy on the most visceral fundamental level, and he's become all the more disturbing today, given what we now know about the activities of global elites. The children are captured, and the car is captured. Luckily, Caractacus and Truly have an ally, the toy maker, played by the only actor in this film besides Dick Van Dyke that most Americans would recognize. The toy maker, who only makes toys for adults now, introduces us to a large underground grotto where Vulgaria's children have been hidden. The grotto looks a lot like a Disneyland ride, except that it's populated with grubby kids instead of Caribbean pirates, which is kind of appropriate given the film producer's desire to give Disney a run for the money. Albert Broccoli, one of the producers of the James Bond film franchise, was encouraged to make Chitty Chitty Bang Bang only after the success of Walt Disney's Mary Poppins in 1964, hence the casting of Van Dyke. The production design, by the way, is by Ken Adam, who designed many of the secret layers in James Bond movies, as well as the War Room in Dr. Strangelove. Our heroes get a first-hand look at the inhumanity of the Baron's regime.
Sir, have you come to help us?
And although Caractacus's first order of business is to rescue Grandpa and the kids, he now resolves to help facilitate a full-blown regime change war in the land of Vulgaria.
You want to get out of here, don't you? Yes, come in closer.
The attack on the Baron's castle begins with a classic Trojan horse deception, courtesy of Benny Hill, who introduces a pair of new toys to the Baron's court. Little do they know that these life-size toys are actually undercover agents, meant to distract the court from covert activity in preparation for the siege. Ian Fleming, the author of the original Chitty Chitty Bang Bang book, knew a thing or two about covert operations. In the 1930s, Fleming worked for British intelligence in the UK and the Soviet Union. During World War II, He served as an intelligence officer in the Royal Navy and formulated numerous operations. In 1941, Fleming was in Washington, D.C., helping to draft the blueprint for the Office of the Coordinator of Information, which would eventually become the CIA. After the war, Fleming created the character of James Bond based on people he met in the field. By 1961, his James Bond novels were very popular, boosted by a recommendation from JFK, who listed From Russia with Love as one of his favorite books. That same year, Fleming suffered a heart attack. He spent his time recuperating by writing Chitty Chitty Bang Bang for his son, reportedly.
Everybody hold on!
Chitty, the car, is typical of the sort of high-tech gadgetry utilized by James Bond. But the idea that Chitty has a will of its own is more pronounced in the book than in the movie. Another sentient, self-driving car would be introduced by Walt Disney, around the same time Chitty Chitty Bang Bang hits theaters.
A mind of his own makes Herbie the soul bug of the love generation.
Back in Vulgaria, the siege has begun. The Baron, by the way, is played by Gert Frube, who also played the quintessential Bond villain, Goldfinger.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
The Baron, the child catcher, and the entire Vulgaria story is not in the original Ian Fleming book. These elements would be introduced in the screenplay, written by another intelligence agent, Roald Dahl, author of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The Fantastic Mr. Fox, and James and the Giant Peach. During World War II, Dahl was an RAF pilot fighting in Greece, Egypt, Syria, and Lebanon. He was later appointed to the British Embassy in Washington, D.C., and recruited into British Security Coordination, a covert organization linked to MI6. During this period, Dahl met and worked with Ian Fleming. The U.S. had not yet entered the war at this time, and most Americans wanted to stay neutral.
In the event of war in Europe, I think we should stay out of it entirely.
Another war, not for me. This time America should keep out, and I know I will.
These isolationist views were promoted by the likes of Charles Lindbergh and the America First Committee. Dahl was tasked with discrediting isolationist voices and lobbying Washington insiders, pressuring them to enter the war. Back in Vulgaria, the children, armed with kitchen utensils, are soon joined by their parents, armed with farming tools. This well-armed uprising overwhelms the Baron's security forces, captures his despised policy czar, and leaves the Baron hanging from a rope like Mussolini or Saddam Hussein. Our intrepid British heroes, and one American apparently,
Stand back from the propellers!
quickly prepare to exit the fray. Mission accomplished.
And so, after that, Vulgaria became a free country.
It's not that simple in real life. Since the end of World War II, which remains the gold standard for all subsequent regime change wars, the UK and the US, sometimes in tandem, have forcibly removed countless heads of state throughout the world, often resulting in chaos, civil war, corrupt and oppressive leaders, refugee crises, and blowback against the intervening nation. In 1953, for example, MI6 and the CIA succeeded in ousting Iran's democratically elected prime minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, and installing the Shah of Iran, who went on to torture and murder thousands of his political opponents until he was deposed in 1979. That same year, Saddam Hussein became the president of Iraq. His ascendancy began 20 years earlier when he took part in the attempted assassination of Prime Minister Qassim, a plot which had the backing of U.S. intelligence. Saddam had a movie made about it in 1980. The editor and co-director of the film was Terrence Young, who directed 3 of the original James Bond movies. During World War II, he was an intelligence officer in the British Army. Despite its poor rate of success, regime change is still a viable option, according to many policymakers and commentators. And it's easy to get swayed by the idea. In 1961, JFK said this:
As the great parliamentarian Edmund Burke said, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing,
Now, who in their right mind would be against this sentiment, especially since we take it for granted that we are the good guys and our adversaries are evil? This perception is absolutely necessary to any government that wants to convince its population that a regime change war is a good idea. The Baron's regime is a perfect example of the kind of narrative required in such an operation. An enemy with no rationale other than pure evil.
States like these and their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil.
These people, they are evil.
Utterly indifferent to the sanctity of human life.
They kill children, rape women.
They abduct women and children and subject them to torture and rape,
leaving the bodies of mothers huddled over their dead children.
They are among the most evil people ever on earth. They cut babies' heads off. They chop women in half.
The Vulgaria narrative presents us with this idealized version of a morally justified and perfectly executed regime change operation.
You stay here.
Was Roald Dahl trying to embed the idea in the minds of the film's audience? Or was he demonstrating just how the whole idea of regime change is pure fantasy?
Is that how the story ends?
Pretty much. But allow me to tell you one more story. In early 1966, a year before Albert Broccoli gave the green light to Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, he was working on the next James Bond film, You Only Live Twice. Broccoli was location scouting in Japan with 4 other members of the production team. The group was scheduled to fly home on March 5th, 1966, but instead canceled their tickets at the last minute in order to watch a ninja demonstration. The plane they were scheduled to board, BOAC Flight 911, crashed near Mount Fuji, killing all 113 passengers and 11 crew members. We should all be thankful for that fortuitous ninja demonstration in Tokyo. Otherwise, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang may have never come into existence and become as beloved the world over as it is today. Thanks for watching.